are there. And therefore, as we set sail, we ask God's blessing on the most hazardous and dangerous and greatest adventure on which man has ever embarked. Thank you.
Charles over here.
I'm like a little baby bird, man, just winging it. So,
The Brooks and Banks Show.
episode 8.
That's right.
It's the show where everything matters, and
Nothing matters.
that's right.
Nothing matters.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, I think we're going with a theme where Banks is going to be like a different character every episode.
I'm gonna get tattoos on my face like a clown.
With that being said, if you guys enjoy this, please hit that subscribe button on our YouTube. Follow us on Instagram at The Brooks and Banks Show. We're also on TikTok at The Brooks and Banks Show. You can follow Banks and I individually, Banks at OptiMystic Banks, and myself at Kung Fu Brooks.
That's right.
And we have ourselves a very special guest who's also an old childhood friend of ours. Everybody, please welcome Hugh.
Hello, how are you?
Hugh is a Life Path 11 and a Libra.
Yeah.
Brooks is also Life Path 11.
I remember I read it somewhere that at 35 I'm gonna fully mature or something.
Yeah, so
I'm waiting for that. You know.
So there
Well, that's when I had a kid, man.
there's pinnacles in numerology, and typically like your first pinnacle, depending on your life path number, it lasts from the age of 27 up to 35. Mine was at 33, of course.
Okay.
But so essentially, then after that, you have pinnacles in 9-year increments. So the first one's like a long pinnacle, right?
Okay.
And then it's 9 years, and then it's like the rest of your life. And usually your first pinnacle is repeated as your fourth pinnacle.
Okay.
So, like for instance, with me, my first pinnacle is 4, which is all about stability.
Okay.
Which is ironic that I think that we worked at a tool company, and it's about building, right?
yeah.
You know what I mean? And now I'm in this restoration part of my life, and I'm working for a restoration company. It's kind of odd, right? But anyway, so 4 was my first pinnacle. Now I'm in pinnacle 7, then I'll be in pinnacle 11, and then I'll return to pinnacle.
So
4.
how do you figure out what pinnacle you're in?
You have to do your numerology. There's a few apps. I'll share them. On.
Are
I'll
they
put
free?
them. Yeah, they are free. So
Yeah, actually kinda cool.
The app that I use, it's called. I believe it's called World Numerology. I'll share it and put it in the comments.
My brother and I came up on this on our own. This is not something that we adopted from anyone. This is not something that anyone taught us or that we read. Just in our thought and contemplation of like, what if every religion is right? And not meaning that every single thing and every single one of them and every scripture that has ever been written by people of those religions were right in everything that they've ever said. But just on like a basic level of what they all preach and the story of all of them are all right.
It touches on like Edgar Casey. His thought is like
We had an episode about Edgar.
So
Okay.
like, you know, he's got his thought is like I think there's 5 different tribes on Earth, and the Adam and Eve kind of spirit was sent to each single tribe, you know, and they all have like, you know, Buddha, they have Jesus, they have Muhammad, they have, you know what I mean? So everywhere had their prophet. And yeah, they were all taught these things because that is the way, you know what I mean? And they wanted everybody to know the way. And now the way has been so convoluted and manipulated and changed where they have to simplify it into just love everybody.
If I'm zooming all the way out and I'm going super high level consciousness, and I'm talking about like when we realize that like this reality is not real, essentially, like that level, okay? It's just that like everything's perfect the way there is. Everything's perfect the way it is. Religion is perfect the way it is. Every religion's perfect the way you're perfect the way you are. The universe loves you, right? All that kind of stuff. And my point being is that religion is a way for people and on different levels of consciousness. It's not about up and down. Nothing's up and down or left and right. It's all about in and out. But just different people on different dimensions of consciousness so that they all can experience a spiritual experience.
No, I do
It's
get
a
that.
great way of saying
Yeah,
it.
no, absolutely.
Because
really
all we
good.
got to do to ascend is come from the heart space.
Because I mean,
That's
I went and got
That's the trick.
baptized, and it was a beautiful experience.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
So,
and essentially,
especially just
and
you're
again,
giving yourself over.
My
and,
belief
you know,
is that
it's-
like we are true, is that we're all God.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. And so essentially, we are manifesting everything all the time. So like religions, like There's no point of arguing over whether Buddha was real, whether
yeah,
Jesus
no,
was real,
yeah,
because
no.
it don't matter if you believe, then
Right.
then it was.
So
then it
just
was,
just
absolutely, yeah.
just
that's why
like
dragons are real. That's
I
why
feel
phoenixes
that.
are
Right.
real, dog, because they exist in our heart.
Just
and that's a place.
And so just like how like there's rituals in certain religions that like even people who do those who are practicing those religions
Oh,
are
yeah.
like, this is silly, these
No, I'll tell you
rituals.
about- yeah.
But it's my opinion, because in a lot of Kung Fu stuff and like Taoist stuff and Buddhist stuff and like Tai Chi and stuff like that, a lot of the rituals are done to get you into a state of mind.
Yes.
Because so what you just said kind of rings true with that, because
like a trigger.
if you did want to raise people's consciousness and get people spiritual at certain times and you have the masses, how are you going to do it? You have to give them some platform to work with.
Yeah,
You can't just tell
absolutely.
everyone, just go out and be in love.
Yeah.
You know, some of these people are on lower consciousness and that
Yeah.
you needed
Foundation.
structures.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah, true.
Buddhism always talks about and preaches about how they were really big and still are big on when they go to certain places to spread their message, that they needed to mix in and blend in with the local people and give them a flair.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
And Christianity has adopted that as well when they went around spreading it. And so my whole thing is, how do we know or not know that Christianity is basically that Buddhist, that same Buddhist thing, that it was the preachings and
I'll tell you
teachings
this
that
much.
made its way over
Here's-
there, and
here's-
then okay, now how do we fit this into the local people? And
Absolutely.
you know,
Look,
I just
Jesus-
find, I mean, I'm completely
look-
theorizing, but I find that stuff interesting.
no,
you know?
Jesus,
Absolutely.
Mohammed, and Buddha, to tell you the truth, none of them were actually religious.
No, they weren't.
No.
No, they weren't.
People made religions to worship them afterwards,
Yeah.
but they were not religious. They were
Yeah.
spiritual.
Right.
They were ascended masters, dog.
Yeah.
They realized the same thing that we realize eventually, and I mean, what I realized, at least in my universe, is that, you know, let's talk about Jesus. He said, I can't change these sinners. But he realized that the truth, the trick to it, is that we don't change the world, we don't change the people in it, we change ourselves. But then what happens is that when you change yourself, you have to go inward. When you go inward, you're closer to source, closer to your heart. You become God-like, right? And here's the trippy part. When you go inward and you change yourself, you become the truest version of you. Then everybody else turns into a follower, a version of you. The 12 disciples are literally the 12 zodiac signs, and it's basically the archetypes within our own mind, right? You know what I mean? And so that's why you'll start to notice, like, you know what I mean? Like, you'll start filling up your life with, like, different, like, styles, different archetypes of people, and they're all you.
Right.
And essentially, like, the Jewish people and what they preach, they say, yeah, all these books, it's a story about you. Okay? And I think that, again, these ascended masters, they said, I can't change these people, I can only change myself. But here's the truth. When you change yourself, you
People start
actually-
gravitating.
Well, what happens, in my opinion, when we're talking about quantum realm and other, like, spiritual theories and Zen Buddhism and stuff, that when you change yourself, you essentially shift yourself to another version of reality, because there's an infinite number of versions of reality happening at all times, right? So essentially, you change yourself, you shift yourself to another version of reality that is more in line with who you are now. That's how you change the world and the people in it.
And I think you're also, you know, you like, when you raise your vibration, people naturally start gravitating towards you
Yeah.
and want to know why you're putting off these vibes.
Yeah.
Like, even if they can't explain it, they're like, oh, what are you doing? Your
Yep.
skin looks nice, or whatever.
Yeah.
You look younger, you're losing weight, whatever it might be, you know, like, they want a piece of it because they're not happy.
And that's why I think
you
it's
know?
interesting that, like, you know, my belief is that we're all essentially our own universe, you know what I mean? Within the universe that is also us, and within us, and within every cell and everything, right? But just that, so that, like, if that's how it all works, then, like, when you enter my atmosphere when you enter my energy, my vortex field, that's why when a lot of people come into my life, they will start experiencing synchronicities, or they'll start seeing angel numbers 1111, 3333,
Oh, man, I've been
whatever
seeing
they'll start
stupid
seeing.
numbers forever.
And they're like, and when people hang out, they're like, what the fuck? And I'm like, yeah, because you're in my you're in my energy, you're in my atmosphere.
You know how we as people, you, friends, whatever, do a thing where they're like trying to get something, searching for something, trying to go out and get it. And a lot of times it's like this frustrating, never-ending battle that you like feel like you're never winning or just doesn't seem right. And then you hear people say like, nah, instead of like going out and search for it, like let this stuff come to you, right?
Yeah.
I was talking to my brother and I was like, isn't that interesting on just like a physical level, just like in like outer space and stuff like that? You don't really have things that are out there searching for things. You have things that have a gravitational pull,
That are
though,
pulling in
that are
things.
pulling stuff
That's
in
it.
toward them.
That's why feminine energy, because we're talking about
That is funny.
divine masculine, divine feminine energy. It's literally like, the wave of life. Everything's a wave until it becomes a solid state particle. But like a wave is like masculine and then feminine, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and feminine energy is more powerful. But it's because it's like gravity, right? And like I look at it again, like like in this podcast that we're doing, and like my music and like all the consciousness stuff that on your kung fu stuff. It's interesting when like when you're in a state in your life where you're like, I have to have it. I have to go find something to like spark it to like put me on, or to find a connection, or when the truth
The
is,
harder you try to find something, you're not.
you have to let it go.
Yeah.
And just become it and let it grow from you.
Yeah.
But it can only grow from you if you allow the energy to come to you first.
And manifesting helps with
so
that.
you allow it to come to you. That's the feminine energy. And then once you have it, you push it out. That's the masculine energy.
Yeah. Because I mean, obviously, I've been searching for a girl since my ex-wife,
Yeah.
and when I was trying, on Bumble, on
Looking
things like
for love in
that,
all the wrong places,
dude,
baby.
It was just terrible,
It's
and
terrible.
I said, I'm deleting this. I'm just
Yeah.
I said, if I meet this girl,
Yeah.
whoever it might be,
Let it happen
I think I met
naturally.
her, but I just think that it's meant to happen.
Yeah.
Whatever it will be, it'll happen.
Absolutely.
And it's like you can't force it. You can't go on Bumble and swipe right a million times on people that you probably never would even want to be with. Like,
No.
you know.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think
Energy's
that,
big, man.
and again, like, in my higher consciousness state, like thinking about how, like, essentially I believe that, like, all of this matter that we all have here, like, it's just, it's not real, essentially. And that, basically everything's in wave state, right? And
Well, so of course I disagree with Banks on
Okay,
on
okay,
these
so
things,
let me-
on
let
his
me-
like that we're not
let-
in a real place, and
okay.
I'm not saying that.
No, it's all real. It's as real as it gets,
Well,
baby.
But I mean, like the way you describe it, I guess.
So
is
let me
the way I
explain this with some
disagree
science. The Nobel Prize for Physics in 2022 went to a group of scientists, 3 scientists at the CERN facility. They proved Einstein's theory wrong, and it was the theory that reality is locally real, that the universe, that matter, that everything that we experience is locally real. What does that mean? So, like, essentially what they proved is that everything's in wave state until something looks at it.
Okay.
Like, even a camera, like, somehow the particles know, the waves know if you're looking at it.
Interesting.
So essentially what that means is the old saying that if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. No, it's not even a fucking tree. And when something's in wave, it's nothing yet. It's all possibilities, right?
Okay, yeah,
you know what I'm
got
saying?
that,
So
yeah.
essentially, that's why the quantum realm has there's a net, essentially,
Yeah.
where, like, and this is something that it's theoretical physicists, but what they used to believe is that matter created the field, and now they believe that the field is actually creating the matter.
Were they influenced by Marvel, or did Marvel influence them?
Yes.
Because
So-
what if this is reality and I pretend like it's not reality,
all
and
reality.
then I go lose this war because I think I'm in a game?
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely,
So I don't
absolutely. And
take
I
it as
think
seriously.
I think a lot of people struggle with that. The Buddhists would call it the monkey brain, and it's just literally just that the brain, the mind, the brain, left and right hemisphere, the mind is duality. The soul is singularity.
Right, and it's conceiving everything and nothing at once, and it's
Exactly. It's very
Yes.
interesting, right? So and I think that and no matter what it's about, just like that back and forth, it's all part of the journey, you know what I mean? But it's interesting because, like I've told you before, I've helped people that have seen thought form entities and would be considered schizophrenic, like, overcome some of these things before, right? And again, like, thinking like, I don't know if this is demonic or something evil. Here's my deepest understanding of it. And again, this is my opinion, although it's not a belief, it's a knowing in me. But just that anything that we can conceive, whether it's in our mind, another dimension, here in this 3D reality, in the past, in the future, whatever, anything you could possibly imagine, it's all you. So if you see demons and you're worried about demons, it's essentially a shadow side of you that you've not illuminated yet. You're scared of it.
Okay.
So what you got to do, just like in meditation, when we see shadow people, which does happen from time to time, the shadow, a specter, will step right into a beautiful meditation. You're like, what the fuck? And when that happens, what my brother is the one who taught me, when that happens, you have to face it.
Okay.
And what happens is, and meditation is just like the dream realm, and it's just like if you're having a manic episode or a psychosis episode, or you're tripping on acid.
It's a different state
It's a different state of this reality. It's a babushka doll. It's a Russian nesting doll. It's just right. So essentially, like my brother said, you have to face these things, and then what happens though is that when you face that energy in meditation, in an episode or in dream state, it usually will manifest as something in your life that it's different, but it's like a metaphor for the same thing that you have to face again and overcome. And then when you do that, there are no more demons. You have to illuminate your shadow side. That's just my
Carl Jung
personal
talks a lot about
and it's
that.
a lot about the shamanistic journey.
Yeah.
And the shamanistic journey, like we've talked about, like, so if you were in a tribe and you were seeing things ghost or just like a kid who was like, like you or me, essentially, right? In Western culture, they would say, you're schizophrenic, you're crazy, here's pills to suppress you, you're crazy, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Which again, because since we're manifesting everything and everybody's fucking telling us we're crazy, we do become fucking crazy, right? But anyway, so like, if my point being with all that is just that since we're manifesting all this and it's all of our making, we are the only things that can like free ourselves from it. So in Western societies, they would take these people and say, you're schizophrenic. But in the tribal societies, they would say, oh, this is the next shaman of our tribe.
Yeah,
so the
then
shaman
they
would take him under his wing.
yeah.
Yeah, they'd be tripping on some crazy drugs and doing stuff like that.
But they would work through it.
Because the shaman's journey is literally the shaman takes on the spiritual awakening of the tribe almost. And has to go on its own journey through hell.
Yeah.
Again, the devil is in here. The battle you're talking about is in here.
Yeah, and your story and your journey in a way, just like the shaman, you may not even realize it yet, but your story might be a way for you to be a shaman to other people. If you had all the money in the world, what would you do with it?
If you had all the money in the world, you already gone to all the beaches, drank all the daiquiris. You already did everything you want to do.
Like-
All the bills are paid
if you
for.
just said, here's $10 billion, Hugh, or whatever, or
Yeah.
like an unlimited amount of
an
money.
unlimited amount of money, what would you be
I
doing
would
with your
start
life?
with desalinization plants and building places to make food for everybody.
Let's say we already did all that. What are you going to do?
Oh, well, I mean, if I don't need money anymore, then.
Okay, so what are you going to do with your life?
World we live in right now, and you give me
Right.
all the money,
Yeah.
and you say, Hugh, change the world.
I'm saying after you've changed the world. What are you going to do? You probably going to hang out with your friends and family.
Well, of course, yeah.
That's what you're going to do,
absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
And like maybe do something creative. I don't know. What are you into? Like, what would you really do if you like, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, if I could do anything.
yeah, anything.
Huh.
The point that he's getting to, and then this is something that he taught
Because
me, and this
yeah.
was a game changer for me, dog. And the first time he told it to me, I was like, yeah, whatever. You already have the means to do that. Basically what most of us want is to like be happy, and like a lot of us like helping people
Be with
makes
our
us
loved
feel happy,
ones.
be with our loved ones and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the thing that you said about making hard, making money, helping people, yes, it's so true, and for a lot of us it's true. And I think that adds to a lot of our people's frustration of being like, I'm not doing what I want to be doing. I don't feel fulfilled.
Yep.
I wish I could help people, but I don't have the money to. And I wish I could like have a job where I'm helping people and make money doing that. And people can on many
there's certain-
physical
there's certain
aspects.
ways,
There are certain ways. But what my brother has brought me back to is like separate those. Like the money is just a world of money, and that's like its own thing. We all know these things.
Yeah.
And I'm no more better at this than you are. I'm not saying that I've like, but
Exactly.
but the mentality of this is actually quite interesting, because it makes you go, maybe I'm kind of focusing on this and connecting,
Making it more
this thing,
complicated than it is.
making this more complicated
so, like,
than it is.
For me, like ultimately, the way I think about it, like if I had already helped all the people, did everything I ever wanted to do, I was famous, I had all the songs, what would I want to be doing with my life? I would want to be making music, being creative, hanging out with my homies and my loved ones.
I mean,
that's
all I want to do
it.
is have kids and have a wife.
That's
and
it,
all I
right?
wanna
Okay.
do. And I want to obviously I want to spread things that have helped me in my life to other people.
You
know?
could be doing that right
Well, I already do.
And
do
you
it.
are.
I already do.
Exactly.
That's the point,
And
right?
that's the
so,
point.
It's another dimension of truth. I'm not going to deny you that, because I do believe that honestly anything anybody believes is true, and there are different dimensions to it. If you have a belief, you will always find evidence for it, and that's why I don't believe that any religion is wrong or any
Yeah, no, I
theory is
feel
wrong,
that.
and it's all love, and essentially we're all
Interesting.
percolations of the source, which means we all are source, so we're all God. Peace, God. All right, y'all. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you,
Episode
Hugh.
Appreciate
eight.
you having me
It
on.
was
That's
great
right.
having you on,
Appreciate
man.
brother.
All right, man. It's still the show where everything matters, and
Nothing matters.
that's right, y'all. Thanks for joining us, y'all.
Peace.